Welcome to FRC Media News for Thursday, September 19th, 2019. I'm Keith Tebow. The results are in from this week's preliminary election for mayor. We will hear from all the candidates. And do you remember Lincoln Park? Well, there's an event that's coming up where you can relive the nostalgia of that famous amusement park. But first, let's check in with the news headlines of the week. We bring in Phil Devitt, the digital news editor from the Herald News. Phil, how are you?
Oh, thank you, Keith. I'm doing fine. It's another busy week in Fall River news, isn't it?
Yeah, let's get right to it. Let's get right to this week's preliminary election held Tuesday here in Fall River. Only one challenge on the ballot, and that is the race for mayor. Only one race. And when all was said and done, Phil, it was a very convincing victory for Paul Coogan. Paul Coogan garnered over 8,200 votes. Mayor Correa will be his challenger in the final election in November, coming up with 2,777 votes. And then Erica Scott Pacheco finished third with a strong showing of 2,171 votes. Before we hear from the candidates, Phil, let me just get your reaction in terms of that wide spread between first and second place.
Sure, Keith. Well, for anybody who's been following the news in Fall River the last few weeks in particular, it probably wasn't a surprise to see Paul Coogan come out on top, but the margin of his victory, as you said, was pretty surprising, I think, to a lot of folks. 4,000 more votes at the very least than Correa, and we have to imagine that this was a sobering moment for the Correa camp as well. Of course, the mayor is under federal indictment right now. He was arrested September 6th, just a couple of weeks before this election. Had to have known on some level he was going to take a beating here. But to see it by that much and to have only been, passed through the preliminary by about 600 votes is also a pretty sobering thing. Erica Scott Pacheco had about 600 fewer votes than Correa.
Yeah.
So we watched all the speeches the other night, and Correa for sure was his usual optimistic self
right.
in the face of these challenges. But you could also get the sense that he knows he's got work to do, and
right.
he's got to roll up his sleeves and earn back some votes.
Right. Let's hear from the candidates from Tuesday night. Let's start with the number one vote getter in the race, Paul Coogan, who says that tonight is the beginning of a new chapter for him and the city.
Tomorrow, we start a very tough campaign for the final election in November. We are not going to change. I need you, and I humbly ask each of you to stay with me in the weeks ahead. We have work to do. You can enlist the aid of your family and friends. Let's finish this job and repair our city now. People rightfully deserve and demand better leadership, honesty, and more openness from their mayor. They deserve someone who is not in it for the power, for the money, is in it, but because they are just like you. And guess what? We have had enough in this city right now. I love this city and its people. I understand them, I respect them, and I share their values, and I will continue to do that. I said at the start, this city is about the people in it. I owe the people of Fall River a tremendous debt tonight. Many of you placed your faith in me. I promise I will never let you down, and together we will repair this great city with a win in November.
And speaking to his supporters, Mayor Correa was confident that he will again succeed coming up in November.
Whether you live in the North End, the South End, the Flint, downtown, in between, whatever precinct you vote at, I want you to know that over the next 6 weeks, and over the next several debates, and over the next 6 weeks of door knocking, I'm going to shake your hand. I'm going to look you in the eyes. I'm going to allow you to ask me any question you want, about anything you want. And I'm going to tell you the truth. And I'm going to give you the honest answers that you deserve, that you've expected, that you've gotten every single day from this mayor. And I'm going to do one more thing. I'm going to ask you to change your vote to Jazel Carrere, I'm going to ask you to afford me the simplest thing I can ask. Afford me the benefit of the doubt. Because we know why the numbers were the way they were tonight. We know it's not because we haven't done a good job. We know it's not because the city hasn't moved forward. We know it's because there has been attack after attack after attack on the national level, to the local level, to the state level. You see it across the country, what's happening to good elected officials. It's divide, it's anger, it's vindication, it's vendettas. I put all that aside because I work for the people of Fall River each and every single day, and I'm going to keep doing that. So I'm going to ask you, I'm not going to tell you, I'm going to ask you, if you're out there watching tonight and you voted for us, one of the many thousands that did, thank you. Thank you for taking your most important right to take your vote and vote for Jazel Correa and fill in that little circle. Third on the ballot tonight. Thank you. Thank you for voting tonight.
That was Mayor Correa at his acceptance of being nominated to the final election. Erica Scott Pacheco gained over 700 votes in the recall election, gained over 2,100 votes on Tuesday. This is what she had to say to her supporters.
Tonight we came up short, but I think that the 2,100 votes that I earned send a huge message, especially to Jazel Correa and those who are contributing to the corruption in our city. This is our Fall River. This is our city, and there is no place for corruption. That was the message that I ran on to restore respect and justice, and we came up short, but I am so honored and proud of every person in this room. Why? Because we fought hard. We tripled the amount of votes that we had a few months ago. I have never held office before. I knew this would be a huge uphill battle, but I did not get to where we are tonight, the vote total that we are, alone. I got there by standing on the backs of every one of you, and that's why I'm so honored to be here with my team and my family tonight. To Jazel Correa, there's no way that you can win this election in the fall.
That's Erica Scott Pacheco from Tuesday night. So just some other numbers from the election, Phil. Over 13,000 votes cast, about 31% maybe of the vote. It's actually close to the number of people that came out for the recall back in March, and Paul Coogan had over 62% of the vote, Mayor Correa 21%, and about 16% for Erica Scott Pacheco. So now we move on, Phil, to the general election in November, where we'll not only see Mr. Coogan and Mayor Correa go at it one-on-one, but we'll also have some school committee races and also a race for city council. So it'll be interesting to see what happens over the next 6 weeks or so, as the mayor said.
It will, Keith. And you know, Paul Coogan, of course, had reason to celebrate on election night. This was a decisive victory for him, but we spoke with him the next day, the morning after, and he is under no illusions that this is a done deal. In fact, his words that we put on our front cover today were, "It's not over." He knows he's got work to do. And so does Jazel Correa, to be honest with you. This, according to Dan Medeiros, who works here in the Herald News newsroom, was crunching some numbers. He said this was Correa's worst showing of any of his campaigns. So he has to pick up at the very least 5,500 votes if we're looking at the numbers strictly from the preliminary.
Yeah. All right. So moving on now, getting into the indictment of Mayor Correa. There's been some movement in the case there. The 4 co-defendants that were also accused of extortion, bribery, and also making false statements and conspiracy, making false statements to FBI officials. All 4 individuals back in court this week. And it looks like, Phil, that 3 of the 4 are going to be pleading guilty and maybe helping out the federal government's case against the mayor.
That's correct, Keith. We started the week with Jen Andrade in court, who is the mayor's former chief of staff and one of the mayor's alleged co-conspirators in this extortion plot. Her hearing has been continued to allow time for agents who were directly involved in the investigation to come in and testify. Of course, Dave Hebert and Antonio Costa were in court earlier this week, pleading guilty as well. And Hildegard Camara, who you might remember the mayor appointed to lead the Bristol County Training Consortium in 2016, is in court as we record this broadcast today, also expected to plead guilty on 6 charges. So all of this happening, mind you, in the middle of this re-election. 2 of these guilty pleas came the same day as the preliminary election, which I'm sure for the Correa campaign was not a point of pride.
Yeah, definitely not good timing in terms of getting people out to vote on Tuesday. And, you know, we don't know what will come out of it. Those who pled guilty will be sentenced at a later date, but according to court documents, the maximum sentence could be fairly stiff.
Yeah, that's correct. You know, there was one sentence imposed in the 2 hearings that took place on Tuesday, Hebert and Antonio Costa. So Hebert is expected to be sentenced December 12th. He could face up to 31 months in prison. Costa, who could face up to 71 months in prison, has not yet had a sentencing scheduled. So, you know, these months add up. This is, you know, no small sentence comparatively. You might remember in U.S. District Court last week, you know, I forget, Felicity Huffman was sentenced to 14 days for her role in the college admissions scandal. This won't be 14 days for these folks, most likely.
Yeah. So one of the other items we had touched upon last week was the Fall River City Council voted last week to temporarily remove the mayor from office based on what they perceived was an item that they could pursue within the city charter. Last Friday, the mayor decided that he was not going to leave. He's actually been reporting to his office at Government Center. Yesterday, the City Council held a special meeting in executive session where they voted to move forth with some litigation to try to, in effect, force the mayor to leave office based on their vote of a week ago.
Yes, you know, the council is being pretty tight-lipped about this at this point since litigation is pending. But after executive session last night, an attorney from KP Law, speaking on their behalf, said that the council, basically confirmed that the council would go forward with litigation. This after City Council President Cliff Ponte hinted at it last week. No information just yet as of this recording when you know, a filing will take place and what court that will happen. And they're not really saying much at this point, but we are awaiting that filing, and when it happens, it'll be reported.
Yeah, absolutely. And it'll be, you know, if nothing else, I think we talked about this last week, it's an opportunity for the City Council to at least get some clarity in terms of the charter. As we know, when the charter was approved 2 years ago, in the subsequent 2 years, there's been a lot of questions about some of the items in the charter, whether things can be enforced or not. And in this case, depending on how it plays out, and there's a possibility that this may play out long after the November election, and maybe even long after whoever becomes mayor is inaugurated in January. But at least I think for the council, they'll know on whether they can pursue this going forward in the event they need to do so for another mayor.
Right, and you know, and clarity is the key word here. That would be great to have at this point, wouldn't it? Because you have Mayor Jazel Correa not leaving office despite the City Council's 8-1 vote to temporarily remove him. And just as recently as Wednesday night, you have City Council President Cliff Ponte reaffirming that he is indeed the acting mayor right now. So, you know, it would be great to have, you know, some legal clarity on this situation, because it'll make your head spin if you look at it for too long, Keith. Right,
and one note, if you happen to watch the beginning of the City Council meeting last night, it was a very brief meeting before they went into executive session. Cliff Ponte is not allowed under the charter to actually serve in his role as a city councilor if he is the acting mayor. So he was in the room last night, but City Council Vice President Pamela Liberty LeBeau actually ran the meeting because as Council President and as acting mayor, Cliff Ponte is not able to partake in any council business. So I would think that'll probably be the case, as I said, possibly right till the end of the year, which would be the end of the term for Councilor Ponte if he is not reelected. So a lot going on, a lot of moving parts, and we'll continue to follow it for you. All right, Phil, what's coming up over the next few days at the paper?
So we always like a good business modern-day success story, especially tied to manufacturing. Of course, Fall River's past is in manufacturing. American Blanket Company, which makes its goods here in the city, is expanding, and we're putting together a feature story about that and the keys to their success.
All right, very good. All right, Phil, we'll talk next week. Have a good one. Take care.
Looking forward to it. Thanks, Keith.
We'll have more FRC Media News after this.
Here are some job descriptions on the latest hot jobs list from the Mass Hire Fall River Career Center. Financial Analyst. Whirlpool Corporation, located at 88 Current Road, is looking for a full-time financial analyst to help support the manufacturing company with continuous improvement systems throughout operations, as well as lead key capital and financial processes. Job number 125-977-39. Funeral Services Assistant. Waring Sullivan Home of Memorial Tribute at Cherry Place, located at 178 Winter Street, is looking for a part-time funeral services assistant to set up and assist with viewings, funeral services, memorial services, and interact directly with client families during their time of need. Job number 125-96959. Youth Care Advocate. Old Colony YMCA Youth Build Fall River, located at 45 Rock Street, is looking to hire a part-time youth care advocate, responsible and accountable for monitoring youth and for maintaining a safe and secure environment for both staff and youth. Job number 125-95037. St. Vincent's Services Incorporated, located at 2425 Highland Avenue, is looking to fulfill the following full and part-time positions. Community School Liaison, job number 125-94532. Clinical Care Manager, job number 125-94577. Amazon, located at 1180 Innovation Way, is also looking to fulfill the following full and part-time positions. Warehouse Team Member, job number 126-00665. Operations Manager, job number 126-00171. For more information on these or other positions, visit masshiredjobquest.detma.org or call the Mass Hire Fall River Career Center at 508-730-5000.
Thank you for considering a homeless pet today. I hope you enjoy what you're about to see, and as always, please feel free to contact the shelter before coming down to make sure that the pets you're viewing are still available for adoption. We can be reached at 508-677-9154.
Hi, welcome to Hot Dogs and Cool Cats. Today we have Benny. He is a 9-year-old pit bull. He was an owner surrender. He's very easygoing. He does really good on the leash. He's pretty calm for the most part. He doesn't really care for toys too much. Benny doesn't really know commands, but he does love to play, and he loves people. He's very, very friendly. If you want to come down and meet Benny, we are at Forever Paws, so come down and meet him.
Hi, welcome to Hot Dogs and Cool Cats. Today we have Sadie. Sadie's the one on your left. Klinger decided he was going to come on up here and say hello. But Sadie, as you can see, she's a diluted calico, about 4 years old. She's a little on the chubby side, as you can see. We've been working on getting her weight down. She's actually making good progress on that. So whoever adopts her, it'll be best if you continued that, lest she end up with hip problems later in her life. She's a very sweet girl. Right now she's trying to get a little bit of food. You can see right there, since we're dieting her, she's a little hungry. But she's a very sweet girl. She does well with other cats. She would do actually well with kids. I'm not 100% sure on dogs, but well-behaved dogs, perhaps older, like a little lower energy, I think she would do just fine with them, especially if they're about her size. So if you'd like to come and see her, you can come down to 300 Linwood Street here in Fall River, Massachusetts at Forever Paws Animal Shelter.
Welcome back. If you're like me and grew up going to Lincoln Park as a youngster in Dartmouth, Heritage State Park has a historic video on display, reliving those memories of yesteryear.
It's a short, maybe 45-minute video of, I would say, historic footage of the old Lincoln Park. So whether you're a regional resident and you remember Lincoln Park from Dartmouth, or you're someone who just enjoys looking at footage from the fun amusement parks of the past, you can stop by. We're showing daily at 10 o'clock, so you can stop in any day, or, you know, if it's quiet, stop in and ask us to put it on for you. The folks at Spinner Publications were the ones who put together Lincoln Park Remembered. And it is a really neat peek back in time. Some of it looks like promotional footage from the park, and some of it really looks like Super 8 from families. So it shows you not only the rides themselves, but also who was going, what they were doing, and what they enjoyed.
Is it black and white?
The majority of it is black and white because some of the footage comes from the 1920s. And it goes up through at least the 1960s and 70s.
Also at Heritage State Park recently, a local church held a free family event geared to those who are facing some challenging times.
We do stuff like this just to give back to the community. We know Fall River has hurting people that are feeling lonely, drug addicted, homeless, just feeling lost. And we just want to love people. It's not about shoving the Bible down people's throats, but just letting people know that there's people that love them and a God that loves them too. This event we started planning almost a year ago. A lot of footwork goes into it to get a lot of donations. We had a lot of people donate to us, Stop and Shop, Walmart, Target. It's been a real blessing to see that. So the DCR has been great to work with. The city was really good to give us the food permit. So it's taken a lot of footwork to put together, but as you can see, the planning was worth it. 500 or 600 people are here just having a great time.
And that'll do it for this edition of FRC Media News. You can watch FRC Media News Thursdays and Fridays at 6 p.m. and follow us online at our website, frcmedianews.org. For all of us here at FRC Media News, I'm Keith Tebow. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next Thursday.